So welcome again to a very special night. And this is a very exciting event. It's our interfaith youth event, a panel. And we are delighted to be sharing the ideas and opinions of a very special group of young people tonight. So I want to welcome you all to Jam and All Interfaith. If you're new to Jam and All Interfaith, we're Jews and Muslims and all interfaith, and it's an organization that's dedicated to fostering understanding and peace by creating dialogue between faith practices. And we just celebrated 20 years this past fall. And one of the ways that we celebrated and commemorated our 20-year anniversary is to create a video. We commissioned board member Ann Goldberg to create a video for us called Rising from the Ashes. And there's part 1 and part 2. And they're found on our website. And if you haven't seen them yet, they're very powerful, very beautiful, very strong images of the birth of this organization. And it's called Rising from the Ashes because Jam and All started after 9/11. And it is a very powerful video. So, and you ought to check out our website for our events and to learn more about the organization. I've been with Jam now for 3 years, and I have to say, there is not a more dedicated group of people. There's no more hardworking, big-hearted group. People who are really working hard to create understanding and peace in the world, which is Jam's mission. You know, to foster peace and understanding in this world and to bring people together to connect in dialogue, to get to know each other, and to dispel the myths and stereotypes that we have about each other. So it's really a pleasure to be joining with you tonight. And whenever we share our visions and our ideas for creating understanding and peace, we are inevitably led to the awareness that it's the youth who are going to be carrying this torch. We are inevitably in our envisioning process talking about how can we bring more youth involved, because we really want to make that intergenerational connection and bring them into our dialogues and pass the torch. And as the divine would have it, we were approached by Daniel Lulentz a year ago, almost, what was a year ago, a couple of weeks is the anniversary of when Daniel, who is a 10th grader at Pinecrest School, approached us. And he is a 10th grader at Pinecrest School who is the founder and the president of the Interfaith Dialogue Club. And he reached out to us and expressed an interest in expanding his work beyond school by connecting with interfaith organizations and the larger community. And then he was led to us. And he brought us Rachel, who's the co-founder and co-president of the Interfaith Dialogue Club. And Rachel's been interning with us and creating graphics for our social media. And we're so grateful for her work. And you're going to meet Daniel and Rachel in a moment when I introduce the whole panel. But I have to tell you how inspiring it's been to work with them in this process. They did an excellent job of putting together this panel and putting together the initial questions that will launch the discussion and the panel. And it's just been inspiring to know and meet youth who are really interested in promoting harmony between faith practices. And it's really been a joy for those of us in JAM to be meeting these young people and knowing that there's teenagers and young people who are interested in these issues. So that's a great thing. Tonight's going to be different from our usual format. Usually when we have our time together, we come together in small group dialogues, and we're not going to be doing that tonight because we really want to maximize the time that we have with the panel. We have over 40 questions that were sent in, so we're not going to get to all of them tonight. But we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best and try and get to as much of your questions as possible. I'm going to be facilitating the panel, and I'll do my best to guide the discussion, to hear from all the panelists, and to get to as much of this as we can. So I'm going to introduce the panel, and then we'll look at some of the questions. So I do want to introduce each of the panel members, and as they each come on, we'll be asking them to say their names, where they're from, their interest in interfaith, and their faith-based practice, their religion. So let's start with Daniel Willentz, who is the original contact that we had with this group.
Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Willentz. About a year ago, when I was a sophomore, I came into contact with Jam and All, and since then I've been going to so many of their meetings and events, and it's really been great. At my school, I co-founded our Interfaith Dialogue Club, where we get people from...
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the keys, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Is it open? Okay.
Please, everybody mute your, thank you. Sorry,
and now, so about in also I think early last year, we founded our Interfaith Dialogue Club at our school, where we get multiple students of many different backgrounds to come together and learn about each other. Now I'm a junior in high school, and I've worked hard to help put together this event, and I'm really excited to have it.
We're so glad that you're here, and your faith practice, religion, faith-based practice that you're.
I am Jewish.
Okay. And we are so delighted that you're part of our organization, Daniel. And so now we'll bring Rachel on, Rachel Becker. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, so I'm Rachel. Daniel found Gem and All a year ago, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to also go to a bunch of their meetings, and I've also been working with them as their social media intern, so I've been able to help expand those and work with the board for that, and it's just really been a great experience meeting so many new people and being able to join so many great events. And at school, Daniel and I, as you mentioned, co-founded the Interfaith Dialogue Club to be able to have more conversations like Jam does at school. So I'm really excited that we were able to put together this panel tonight. And yeah, oh, and I'm Jewish.
And we're so happy, again, to have you and Daniel with us representing Jam Youth. And so I'd like to bring on Iman Nanji now.
Okay, so hi, my name is Iman, and I actually go to FAU High School. I grew up as, well, I am a Muslim, and because I grew up as a Muslim, I experienced being sort of a minority in schools, and experiencing being different kind of exposed me to wanting to learn about other faiths and people, because I was familiar with the idea of groups of people being different. So I've always thought that diversity and learning about other cultures is extremely important. So I really like participating in these kinds of interfaith events to get more experience and knowledge about others. So I'm really excited to have come across this opportunity, and I'm glad to be participating.
Thank you. Well, we're so glad that you're participating. And Aisha.
Hi, my name's Aisha Minhas, and I go to Pinecrest School. I'm a senior, and I'm the president of our school's Student for Muslim Solidarity Club, which my older sister founded a couple years back, and we just really aim to approach misconceptions about Islam, and we invite all Muslims and anyone who's stands in solidarity, obviously. So yeah, I'm really excited for today's event.
Thank you. And we have Daniel O'Sullivan.
Hey, so I'm Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. On my father's side, I'm Irish Catholic. On my mother's side, I'm Eastern Orthodox. I moved to America when I was 10 years old, and I sort of have I've had the very unique opportunity to see religious dynamics in different places, how different legislation has affected different religious dynamics all over the world, and sort of what it was like getting into the US as a person who's practiced religions from other countries and how we've sort of embraced them in our own way here. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And welcome. And Shale Cochran.
Hi, I'm Shale. I go to Pinecrest as well. I'm a junior with Rachel and Daniel. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you all for having me. I practice Hinduism, so that's a great religion. I love practicing it. In the Interfaith Dialogue Club, I like being part of the club because I just get to spread awareness and teach my friends about all different types of religions, including my own. And I look forward to talking about it to you guys as well.
Great. Well, we're excited to have all of you here, and welcome and thank you. And I am we're gonna start tonight's panel with questions that that Daniel and Rachel came up with, and then after we address those 4 questions, then we're going to be addressing the questions that you all gave us in registered. So if oh good, Todd's sharing the slide, and these are the so that the audience can see too that these are the questions that we're going to start with, and they're going to be what do you think about the state of interfaith relations today in our country, and how much do you know about people different from you, and where does that information come from? What impact do you think stereotypes have on interfaith peace, and how do you think other people perceive you based on your own religion, and how do you perceive others? So we're going to dive right into that. And we're going to start with the first question, which is, what do you think about the state of interfaith relations today in our country? And we are going to start with Daniel and go from there.
All right, so my thoughts on interfaith today in our country. Obviously, not everything is perfect, but throughout the years, I think the country as a whole has been getting better at it. We've sort of now we all have access to the internet and everything, so that allows us to sort of learn more about anything we want instantly. However, there's also a lot of misinformation out there that you'll have to be careful of. So it's sort of, in today's modern age, we have access to so much out there, but so much of that could be untrue. So you sort of have to be careful with what you're learning, but you also have to make sure that you're learning what you can to sort of be more connected in today's world.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And Rachel, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I kind of see this from 2 different views. You know, in my everyday life, I have friends of multiple religions, and even though our ideologies might not always be aligned exactly, it's not reason for any kind of conflict. We all get along, but I know that that's never been an issue for me personally. But outside of my everyday life, I see and hear in the news about issues about people hating each other because of what they believe in and doing harm because someone else has different religion, perspective, whatever it may be. And I know it's real, but sometimes it's hard to really understand the reality, since I kind of live in a bubble, and it's scary because some of that time the hate is directed at Jews, and I hear about it happening on college campuses, and it makes me kind of scared for the future. Like, how will that impact me? Will it impact me? What kind of compromises on my religion, and I hope that I'm able to be at a place with, accepting people where I don't have to worry about that kind of thing. But, it's scary that we live in a bubble, or at least, and I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by such supportive people that are open, that it's scary to look towards the future where that may not be a reality, which is part of the reason that I wanted to start the Interfaith Dialogue Club at my school, to be able to start having those conversations about our differences.
And are you finding that a lot of your fellow students are experiencing the same kind of feelings that you have around, the fear around where it's gonna go?
I think so. And at my synagogue, I've attended with my rabbi. He's had these sessions on the importance of staying strong with Judaism and understanding the importance of it in your own life and sticking with it and continuing to practice even when you are on a college campus with people who might find it different. So I've been able to, have those conversations with my friends.
Good. And how about the rest of you? Anybody else want to comment on what you think about the state of interfaith relations today? Shale, did you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, sure. So when I think of the state of interfaith relations in in America today, I think comparing the past to the present, and even comparing that to the future, where in the past we've had a lot of stereotypes and people who unfortunately were racist towards others because of their religion or their skin color, or other things that their other characteristics about the person. And when comparing that to today, I feel like we've come a long way and we've improved so much because of the open world that we live in now. And we have a lot more people that are able to accept and open up their minds to different religions and to different faiths. And I think that's very important today because of the wide variety of faiths that we have in our country. And in the future, I hope for the best. I think that we're going to be going towards a mindset where people are going to be more open and more happy to accept and just be more kind. And yeah, I feel like that we're going to be heading towards a better place in the world in the future.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Glad to hear the optimism. And I saw that Daniel O, I'll say, we have a Daniel O and we have a Daniel W. So Daniel O, I see that you have your hand up, and I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I really like this question, and I think depending on where you're from, there's sort of a different answer. So, I mean, I agree, in terms of religious tolerance domestically in the United States, we're in a great place right now. But I think it's important also to recognize our own complicitness in the propagation of American hegemony in first the nuclear family and other American ideals all over the world, especially since 9/11. The American hegemony quest has sort of been a never-ending pursuit for, well, I mean, I guess American hegemony and sort of the rigid Christian beliefs that come with it. So although domestically, yeah, there's a lot of tolerance, there are a lot of things that people are going through all over the world, and there's sort of this disparity, like Rachel mentioned before, how within her group of friends, there's no issues, but I think on a much broader scale, these really systemic issues still exist.
Yeah, unfortunately. Anybody else want to say how you're feeling about the interfaith relations before we move on to the next question? Those are really good answers, and it's true. It gives us a lot to think about. There's a very scary aspect to it, and there's also this optimism at the same time. So that's sobering and gives us faith at the same time. So the next question is how much do you know about people different from you, and where does that information come from? And Rachel, would you want to start with this?
Sure. So I think that unfortunately I don't know a ton about people different from me. You know, in lower school, they taught us about different religions, middle school, but I think that as we got older, um, that kind of got lost. So what I know through formal education is really from an early age. And I kind of wish that carried through and that they continued that. But other than that, you know, I know what I've learned from my friends, from participating in multiple groups that promote conversation between people of different faiths and from what I've read or seen online. But obviously, that's not always reliable. And that's kind of the scary part that, you know, I might not believe everything I hear or see on random websites or social media, but that doesn't mean that other people don't. So, you know, when you have people telling lies or spreading mistruths and other people believe them, that's kind of what promotes hate and dislike of certain groups, even if it's not based on anything real. And, you know, once people get something in their head, it's really hard to change those ideas. So I think that's why groups like this are so important and why it's important to engage young people early so that they never form those false ideas.
Yeah, great answer. Yeah, that links back to what Daniel was saying in terms of countering misinformation that is out there. And Daniel, or who else wants to weigh in this? Dan, you want to talk to this?
Yeah. So I guess similarly, when I grew up, I sort of didn't know a ton about any other religions. I went to synagogue on the weekends, and I would go to Jewish school where they would teach me about my own religion, and I'd learn about our past. And besides that, I sort of only knew like cursory information from just people around me. However, as I got older, you know, everyone sort of realizes the world isn't as simple as it seems. And especially when I got into high school, I sort of tried to make even more of an effort to look at perspectives I'd never considered before when I was little. And that's sort of even the reason why I helped make the Interfaith Dialogue Club in my school, so we could see those other perspectives that we might have previously been ignorant of and just sort of had been assuming things about them from what random things we heard through maybe the news or the people around us, but actually talking to people with other perspectives and seeing what they actually are. And so through the interfaith dialogue, you can sort of learn the reality of everything and not just what you think in your head.
Mm. You really are a JAM youth member. That's so much of what we talk about, right? How about others on the panel who want to weigh in on how do you know, how much do you know about people different from you, and where do you get that from?
I can also answer this one. So growing up, like in my mosque, we really focused on learning about other religions. So it was really cool seeing, like, just from a young age, not only in my mosque but also through school. Just like I've always been surrounded by like learning about other religions like Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and a lot of what I've learned about like interfaith relations has been through my own mosque, like, and with my parents. Like I've attended a service in a Sikh temple, and I've attended a church service, and it's, even if not all of like the actual practices and rituals, I guess you could say, are the same, you definitely can feel that sort of spirit. I feel like a lot of it is, you can feel that connection on that level. And yeah.
Yeah, nice. Kind of reinforcing that talking and connecting is so important. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? Like, how do you get your information from?
I could weigh in a bit. So fortunately, while I was growing up, I was exposed to a lot of diversity. So I was able to firsthand learn about many other cultures and faiths. And because of that, I believe strongly that the best way to learn about others' religions and cultures is to just interact with them directly. And luckily, I got the opportunity, but I know many people don't. So awareness about making an effort to put yourself in those situations, I think, is very important. But despite meeting a lot of different and unique people, I obviously don't know everything, and I have a lot more to learn. So I try to involve myself in more interfaith events. And like I think Daniel said earlier, the internet is a fantastic resource, but it's not always the most reliable. So that's why I really think an effort to meet people personally is the most valuable resource to getting more information.
Yeah. It is, even on Zoom, it's not the same, right? Meeting people on Zoom and meeting people in person. Although I'm very glad we do have this format for us to get to know each other. Anybody else? Shale, you want to weigh in on how you know people different from you and where you get that information?
Yeah, I think that the most important thing about knowing people from other faiths or other religions is the way you grow up. And thankfully, growing up in Miami, I've been able to be around a lot of people who are from different religions, different faiths, and I've been able to learn about their religions. And believe it or not, I did go to the same Jewish preschool as Daniel. So I got to learn a lot about that culture, and it was actually a lot of fun. Um, I think that overall, the best way that I think to get to know people from that are different from me is just to talk to them in person, express your opinion. And I think the best way to respond to that is if someone is incorrect or wrong, you shouldn't take it as offensive. Whereas maybe you could just correct them, educate them, and help them become more knowledgeable about overall like religions and faith.
Great, good. Daniel O, I see that you want
Yeah, sure. So I think this is a great question, and I think the answer to this is sort of constantly changing in what religion means to us, like what we think of religion as a construct, and I think absolutely the internet is such a useful tool. And I mean, I think there's really a dichotomy you can use to help spread religions or really tarnish the reputation of some. But I really like what Shell said about just discussions like these. I think is where progress takes place, and I think this is where people really find common ground, moderated discussions in which we can discuss the merits of our own religions and where they come together a bit more than we think. So yeah, I mean, I think endeavoring into this in groups that sort of are trying to find some kind of peace is really a great step forward.
Yeah. Right. Well, and this is great because, you're all talking about the things of getting together and talking and meeting people in person and going to other temples or churches. And, this is kind of like the basis of this interfaith work. And I'm really so happy. What impact do you think that the stereotypes people have of different faiths and religions have on interfaith peace? Like, what do you think the impact of that those stereotypes have on interfaith peace? Daniel, do you want to start us off with this one?
All right, I'd love to. So again, when you have stereotypes, they sort of are, you might not even mean to make them. Usually you wouldn't. It's sort of just what you think you know from what's around you, and you have nothing, if you have nothing to contradict that, that's all that's gonna stay in your head. When you sort of have to look at yourself and really think about it and try to deconstruct these stereotypes by actually meeting people, and that's sort of the best way to realize everything isn't just what I think in my head, but rather what's around us in actual people in actual groups. That makes sense.